Hey, greetings everybody. It is GleeCon here again with another Thanksgiving episode. On our last episode, we did the 4th level of the Scourge campaign. We saw Arthas land, kind of beat back some Blood Elves, and then make his way to the secret entrance to Azjol Nerub. I've always said Azjol Nerub, but if I call them Nerubians, and makes sense to say Azjol Nerub. I actually like that better than the pronunciation I've always done. All right, so stay a while and listen as we set up the second act of the final campaign. This one's called the Banshee Queen, and it's one tiny little chronicles that's going to, in a nutshell, encapsulate the bare bones of the whole third part of Sylvanas' story. And then we're going to read that story all in a row before we jump into playing it in the game version. Arthas Menethal's departure from Lordaeron did not bring peace to the region. Undead that were still loyal to the Lich King roamed from the center of the Fallen Kingdom to the eastern edge of the Plaguelands. From the southwest, Oathmar, Garithos, and the remnants of the Alliance were launching offensives into these lands, and trapped between these sides were two rebel undead factions, one led by Sylvanas Windrunner, and the other by the Dreadlords Balnazar, Deathrock, and Varimathras. The Dreadlords sensed the hatred burning within Sylvanas, and they saw her as a useful ally. They offered her a place in their army. We already saw that cutscene. In response, Sylvanas gave them war. She had only recently regained her freedom from the Lich King, and she was not about to pledge herself to a new master. What was more, the Dreadlords had helped bring the plague of undeath to Azeroth. They had helped create Arthas, and by extension, they had made her into a monster. Varimathras was the first to succumb to Sylvanas. To escape defeat, he kneeled before her and promised to act as her obedient service. Loyalty meant little to demons, a fact that Sylvanas understood well, but she saw Varimathras as a potential weapon. He was powerful, and he knew what tactics the other Dreadlords would use against her. As long as he remained useful, she would allow him to draw breath, and that's the last thing we did on Sylvanas' part, so I guess we could have read that earlier. Sylvanas gave no quarter to the other Dreadlords. Though her undead were few, she had gained formidable new powers in undeath. Moreover, her years as a Ranger General made her a master of strategy and battlefield tactics, and she methodically dismantled the Dreadlords' forces. Deathrock was the next Dreadlord to fall before her wrath. Balnazar barricaded himself behind the walls of Lordaeron's fallen capital and prepared for the inevitable siege. His efforts were in vain. Sylvanas and her forces stormed through the city, defeating the Dreadlord and seizing the stronghold for themselves. I think defeating those two is the next mission that we're going to do. And from everything that I hear, it's a toughie because you have like an 8-minute timer. I read about it a little bit. You have an 8-minute timer to go pick one of the two and beat, and then try and defeat the other one. With the capital under her control, Sylvanas now had a refuge to protect herself from her enemies. She named her followers the Forsaken and proclaimed herself their Banshee Queen. Sylvanas ordered the Forsaken to establish a new kingdom in the city's subterranean crypts, dungeons, and sewers. This putrid warren became known as the Undercity. In its toxic corridors, Sylvanas Windrunner and her Forsaken planned their vengeance against the Lich King. Okay, so what we have there is the story of how the final classic race is made. What we don't have is how they join the Horde. We might get some of that in the bonus campaign. The Sylvanas novel will touch on that some. So we are going to read that, but as far as Chronicles goes here, and as far as everything else, there's still some story to be told about how they join, and that might be considered nothing. And we also don't know how the Night Elves have officially joined the Alliance. Although that's a little bit easier to connect those dots, but we still don't know fully why they're part of the Alliance. Those are things that have to be tightened up and lines drawn to, probably in some pre-Warcraft, World of Warcraft lore that we're going to read. But that's all in the future. This episode, in the pipe 5x5. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Have a great day. See you next time on the World of Warcraft.